Hey, it's Ollie, and in this video, I want to talk about taking a break from language learning. Is it a good thing to do? Should we structure time off into our learning? Should we leave the books at home when we go on holiday? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe to the channel. You'll get them delivered automatically to you so you can stay on top of your language learning and get some more of these kind of tips and conversations about language learning. All right, then. So when I look back on my life, there are all kinds of times when I've taken a break from something and got better as a result. Now, until for a long time, I just thought I didn't really have an explanation for this. I thought it was just a quirk. Maybe it was me imagining that I was better. I remember once going on holiday with my parents to the US, and we were away for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I remember we walked past this piano shop on the last day before we were about to fly back to the UK. And I was like, oh, wow, I haven't seen a piano for like 3 weeks. And I'm a musician. Like I've grown up playing the piano. So I saw this piano shop and I have to go inside and try one out. So I sat down at this beautiful Steinway and I just played. And I don't know what it sounded like, but to my ears, it was the best I'd ever played. And I'm sure it was because I was totally fresh. I didn't bring any, you know, didn't bring any bad habits to. I kind of snapped out of whatever I was doing before. I also find that when you take a long break from something, even if it's it could be just a few days, but especially if it's 2 or 3 weeks, you really have an opportunity to break bad habits, right? So, for example, if you've got an iPhone addiction, a smartphone addiction, and you check your phone a lot, but then one day you go off and you spend a day at the beach, or you spend a weekend away, and you don't take your phone, and then you come back home. You might be able to tell this is from personal experience a little bit. You come back home and then you see your phone, and you reach for the phone, and then you realize, hang on, I haven't looked at my phone for the last 2 days. Why do I need it now? And you think, okay, I must have this must be an addiction. It's a habit. It's a compulsion. And so the time off actually allows you to kind of just take stock of the way that you study and identify these bad habits that might have crept into the way that you've been learning. And it's an opportunity for you to say, right, let's try things a bit differently. Also, when you're away, inevitably you think about these things and you think about, okay, you know, how should I be using my time? And it's an opportunity to think and reflect. So for all these reasons, taking time off is good. But I think there is a much more compelling reason, which I've come to learn recently, which relates to what we know now from cognitive science about what Dr. Barbara Oakley calls the diffuse mode versus the focus mode. Right, now, usually this applies more to shorter time spans. It might be how you study within the course of a day. So let's look at that and then see how that might be able to apply longer term. So the focus mode is when you're sitting down and studying something in a detailed way. So let's imagine you're trying to get to grips with a particularly difficult grammar point. So you get your books out, you learn about that grammar point, you do some exercises, and you might spend an hour doing that. Now, there's only so much the brain can take in at one point. All right, so then imagine if you close your books and you go off and you take a long walk, take a shower, go to the gym, have lunch, whatever it may be. What happens is, whilst you're doing nothing, whilst you're doing something totally different, thinking about other things, your brain enters what's called the diffuse mode, and it starts to create connections between these different pieces of information. All right, so words that you might have learnt, examples of this particular grammar point you might have seen, rules you might have been thinking about. While in the diffuse mode, so while relaxing, your brain forms connections between these so that you can start to see the bigger picture a little bit more. And this is the best way to complement the focus mode. All right, so in the focus mode, you're trying to understand things actively, looking at them in detail. And in diffuse mode, you are actually making sense of it all, forming connections that weren't there otherwise. And so when you look at high achievers, they know how to switch between the focus mode and the diffuse mode at will, and they plan it into their day. It's the basis of things like the Pomodoro technique, where you work flat out for 25 minutes, and then you take 5 minutes off, and then 25 minutes on, and 5 minutes off, and so on and so forth. It's because we know that by refreshing the brain, you are able to continue doing good work. So this is all like within the space of a day or a couple of days. But think about it like this. If you are studying a language for a whole year, let's say 6 months, you're studying a language for 6 months, and then you're working at it fairly regularly, say 3, 4, 5 times a week. Now, do you think that taking a few weeks off after those 6 months is going to be helpful or not? Well, if you think about this focus mode and diffuse mode thing, and you think, well, if over the space of one day, taking regular time off is going to help me learn, surely exactly the same thing applies for longer time periods, right? To me, it makes perfect sense that if you've been studying something for a few months, then a couple of weeks off, when you look at it in the grander scheme of things, is only going to be beneficial. And like I said, I've noticed this lots of times before when I've been studying a language quite intensively. Sometimes you step away for a month, and then you have an opportunity to speak the language maybe after that month or so, and everything's just so easy because your brain's hard at work in the background, making connections, making sense of stuff, whatever the brain does when it's in the diffuse mode. I don't know what it does, but it's pretty cool. So I say I'm all for breaks. I'm all for taking time off. I think apart from anything, it's your life that you're dealing with. You've got to live your life, and we can't just be permanently on call, permanently working, plugging away at things. We've got to take time off. I've never, assuming that when you're on, the periods where you're actually studying, assuming that you are actually working and you're actually, putting in some effort, then I think there is nothing but benefit to taking a reasonable amount of time off. I think there's lots of positives. And if you are going away, leave your books at home. Try some, or at the very least, try something different. So if all you do during the week, during your normal time is study grammar, do your textbooks, then maybe if you really want to keep up the language during your holiday, then maybe what you can do is do something totally different. So just go out and speak to people. Use different parts of your brain. But either way, I think doing something either totally different or taking time off altogether is a very, very good thing. And if you've never done it, maybe now's the time. All right, so I hope that was helpful. Remember to subscribe to this channel if you'd like more like this. Also, check out lots of other videos on all different kinds of topics, different kinds of languages available for you. And see you next time.